Welcome to Megabucks Radio. Conversations with successful entrepreneurs, sharing their tips and strategies for success. Real-world ideas that can put megabucks in your bank account. Here's your host, Nina Hirschberger.
Well, hello, this is Nina Hirschberger, and welcome to today's episode. There are special people in your life that when you get them on your radio podcast, you just can hardly wait to get started. Well, that's my guest today. I want to introduce you to my really good friend, Jill Lublin. She's an international speaker. She speaks on, I know her as the publicity queen, but she does a lot of things about radical influence, networking, kindness. In fact, one of her latest books, Profit of Kindness, went #1 in 4 categories. But she's the author of 4 best-selling books, and today we're going to talk about how you can stay visible during uncertain times using publicity. Jill, welcome to today's show.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Now, I should have said that you've been working in publicity for over 25 years? So you're not just a newbie in this. You've been around a long time.
I have been doing it steadily. I wrote the book on it, Guerrilla Publicity. I love it. It's my jam.
Well, I know, and every time I hear you speak, it's like, notes. So let's get started. So we don't even have an outline. We're just going to chat. This is about 30 minutes. We're going to just talk about it. So, Jill, I assume what we're going to be talking about is local businesses primarily, and how for them to stay visible, or are we going to talk about any other kind of business?
Actually, no, this is for every business. It doesn't matter what you do. You don't need to be a local business. You can be a virtual business. You can be in multiple categories of business. Really, publicity is the engine that's going to drive your business and get you more of those prospects and connections and clients and recognition. That's what's key in the marketplace today. Publicity does that for you no matter what business you're in.
Okay, so get started. How can it do that?
Well, a couple things. You mean in terms of how can a business get started?
No, publicity. So let's get right into publicity. How can, first of all, let's give a definition of publicity. What is your definition? Well,
I have a very, shall we say, expansive definition of publicity, and that is that it happens from the minute you walk out your door. You're doing publicity. You're creating recognition in the marketplace. People are identifying you by who you are and what you do. So let's do it the right way. I want you to do it the right way, to speak yourself well, to message yourself, and to be that voice that people care about and understand and know.
In my days, I always thought of publicity as when you did a press release and you sent it by fax or email, or maybe in the older days, even by mail, to news reporters, to reporters at the radio station, the TV station, whatever. I think times have changed. It sounds like your expansion on publicity means how you look, how you wear your hair, what you say, the message, your bio, all of those things. Is that all publicity?
So everything is publicity. Really, when you're introducing yourself, when you're getting connections and coffee, when you're on a plane, if you go on planes these days, whatever it is, you're doing publicity. So let's make sure it's right, it's connected, it's who you are, it's, frankly, the perception you want to have in the marketplace, I'll put it like that. And I think that's really important, that we know what our message is, that you can say it anywhere, anytime, no matter how you feel, no matter what's going on in your life. And I think that's really important.
Okay, so let's start there. Message. Tell me, I think you have a particular formula for message.
So I do. And the formula specifically that I love is stating what's the problem today. Because, as much as I'd love to say it's all about what you do in your product and your service, it's not about that. What really publicity is about is connecting you to your audience by solving their problems. That's what we got to focus on. And I think the quicker and sooner people know that, the better it is. And I think that'll be really it'll be much more helpful for people
if they solve the problem. So first of all, you got to know the problem, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay, so how to stay visible during these uncertain times? Sounds like number one, what you look like, what your message is, and then I really do want to explore that message a little bit more. Tell me what it is. Okay, you say I need to, in my message, talk about how I solve a problem. Can you give me an example of a message?
So, okay, so for instance, I'll just give you mine if I may, and that's just
yes.
Keep it easy as an example. So I would say the problem today is 4 out of 5 businesses will go out of business because you have no clue how to create publicity without spending a fortune. Notice I'm keeping it really simple. I'm keeping it in 5-year-old language. I'm making publicity accessible to start people thinking about, yeah, maybe I need some, right? And then the other side of that is solutions. And I recommend that people give 3 solutions. Like, what do we do? What's the message that everybody needs to know? I call it what do you do? Give them the what you do and make it really simple. And here's another fun thing is give them appetizers, not full meals. In other words, don't give away your whole store. Don't tell them all your secrets, but definitely tell people a lot of good things that they need to do, right? So I would say, after I state the problem, then I would say, I want to give you 3 guerrilla publicity things to do today to get your message in the media. The first way to get noticed is to create your ooh, ah factor. The second way is to create the I've heard of you somewhere syndrome. And the third way would be focus on networking magic and show up in your communities at least twice a month for name and face recognition. And that is my 3 messages. Simple, to the point, not complicated, right? And I think that's the thing that most people really need to do is just give very simple, easy tips that are interesting, connected, and give people real things they can chew on. That's why it's called a sound bite. Give them real things they can chew on quickly, effectively, and simply.
Okay, so the first one in your message was how to show show up. Is that what you said? Tell me what that means.
Create your ooh, ah factor.
Okay. Tell me what that means.
So I love this part. And by the way, I made that up. Why? I mean, that's the fun of it, right? And what it means is that you use everything you've got. So I was working with a woman for coaching. She's a communications coach. And then Black Lives Matter happened, and I said to her, and she's African American, I said, forget everything we've done. I want you to speak about being a strong Black woman in today's world. What advice can you give people? And that's the message we switched to that got her a lot of press, right? I have a woman, she's a psychologist. What she really does is helps kids in school, autistic children in particular. She also does some relationship coaching and counseling. Well, when, the quarantine came down, I said, you're going to now be the quarantine Cupid. And you're going to tell people what they can do and how they can communicate effectively in quarantine times. Right? Without, I'm sure we've all been through this. You're spending a lot of time with the people you live with now. And so how do you communicate more effectively and connectedly? And that was the message that got her on, for example, WGN in Chicago, huge radio station, Fox News Network, right? So how can you shift your message for now, like for what's going on right now? And then I want you to plant your publicity garden for 3, 6, and 9 months ahead. Both are good, and it all works, and then you're playing a little bit more, how publicity works, which is sometimes we can predict it and sometimes we can't. The most important part is if you don't get your name out there, how will you ever get featured?
So I think, Joe, the beauty right now, at least in my world, because, I sometimes don't like to travel, the beauty right now are these people being interviewed on television stations, of course radio, you wouldn't need to, but by Zoom or by video versus having to go into a studio.
Oh, gosh, everything. What's so fabulous. Everything's by Zoom. I mean, listen, I was on a Dallas TV show when the largest ad agency got fired because they made a racist comment. The CEO made a racist comment. And so next thing I know, I'm getting into that and connected to all kinds of Fox News networks and immediately what was so fun, the producer just calls me, connects me in, and there we are on Zoom. And then he puts it together and produces a show. So, yes, it's actually gotten even easier to be in media, which I think is a beautiful thing.
So how do you know who to send these things to? I mean, obviously you said publicity starts the moment you walk out your door. But I think of it really what your end game is to get on a radio station, on a television station, in a magazine, in a newspaper, whatever that media is. So do you have a formula? Do you just send them anything, or is there magic to do that?
So a couple things. One is that it shifts and changes depending on who you want to reach, right? Like if you're going after traditional media like ABC, NBC, CBS, and depending on what country you're in, other, BBC, CBC, et cetera, then there'll be, usually you're going to talk to producers in the shows, okay? That's usually who you're after. If you're going into magazines, you're going to want to talk to editors. And if you're going in social media, I like tracking reporters. You can find reporters in social media. That really works. So, honestly, it just depends who you're going after. And I like to recommend to people, figure the rule of 7 follow-ups. You don't just send an email and then you're in. I mean, occasionally that happens, but honestly, not often. It's a bit of a numbers game. You got to keep consistent and persistent and stay focused, right? And that's really important.
So if you're a chiropractor, an auto repair guy, a landscaper, or even an internet marketer, your point is you need to get recognized by media. Does it matter what media you choose? I mean, let's say I'm a chiropractor. Does it matter where or what media I choose to go after? What matters is the connection to where your audience is. Okay, but I generally believe that all media is good media. So even, let's say you get into a place like one of my speakers and corporate trainers, she got into NBC Nightly News for something totally unrelated, and yet she used that as a leverage point to get more gigs, to create her credibility, to all of a sudden everybody, got connected to her. And I think, that's what's so important. Okay, and so do you spend hours a week trying to identify what is the way to reach these people anymore? Do you fax? Do you email? Do you do social media? So
I will tell you, obviously, I don't want to get too in the weeds because I do this in a virtual publicity course where we really get down and get it done and do it the right way. But here's what I want to tell you. There are media lists available that you can just buy, and that's easy, and they're simple, and they're affordable. There's ways that you can get your name out there consistently by subscribing to certain lists, like I'll give one away right now, which is HARO, HelpAReporterOut.com is a great place that media is looking for people like you right now. There are some podcast matching services, which I like, that can get you onto podcasts really quick. And I like getting onto podcasts right now just because it's simple and easy, and that makes a difference. So I would tell you, my general rule is let's figure out who you really want to reach. What's going to be the, shall we say, fastest, easiest way to reach them? And generally, that's through picking, I like, maybe top 25 media kind of thing. And that really works, and that works really well.
So when you say reach, who you want to reach, you're talking either the producer or the editor or whatever. But do you need to think who, again, I'm going to go back to being a chiropractor. Do I need to think who my ultimate, goal is to get more clients, more patients? So do I need to be thinking of the end user at all or am I just looking for getting that exposure in general?
So, the end user would be your customer and client, right? So let's say as a chiropractor, that's pretty broad because, that would be a lot of people. But let's just say you're a small business owner who wants to reach other small business owners. So I would say first question is, great, what are they watching? What are they listening to? What are they reading? Let's start there, right? And connect the dots so that your clients, customers find you, because I love publicity. It's an attraction factor, right? And people keep seeing your name. So the first thing is, what are they reading, watching, and listening to? Not what you are, but what they are. And so, let's just assume they're listening to small business podcasts. Let's assume they're reading things like Inc. and Forbes and Entrepreneur Magazine, as an example. Right? Even if it's online, doesn't really matter, because when you get in media, you're both online and offline, meaning you're in the magazine and you're in their website. So double the fun, which is what I think is so super cool about publicity now, is you actually have an opportunity to get in multiple media and quickly. So, finding a podcast that's oriented towards small business is actually pretty darn easy. Does that make sense?
So there must be, yeah, it makes perfect sense. So are there directories out there for those podcasts?
There are lots of podcast directories out. If you just Google a podcast directory, you'll see them come up. We have a few that I tend to like that are matchmaker podcasts, and those are good. But the truth is, you could put, here's a simple, great tip. Put like one word into iTunes. For me, it might be publicity, since I wrote the book Guerrilla Publicity. Or it might be kindness, since I wrote the book The Profit of Kindness. And with that, you'll see podcasts coming up that specialize in that particular subject. Then you go to them and you say, hey, I've done this and would love to help your listeners and would love to be a guest. Pretty much, in a way, it's that direct and that simple.
Okay, since we're going down the podcast route, and, since this is my radio podcast and I love it, do you see that being something that every business ought to be on podcast, and should they have their own podcast?
Okay, well, here's the thing about having your own podcast. Listen, you are a wonderful, smart, connected person who understands media. I don't necessarily think everybody should have their own podcast. It's, as you've got to get the guests, you've got to create the time. If you're willing to do that, I think that's a beautiful thing. I would like most people to focus on being a guest for a while. Get your guest on, right? and be a good guest and come up with good sound bites, know what your main points are. And then if you want to run your own podcast, terrific. That's a great thing. And then I say, let's do it. But on the whole, really, it's another project. You just got to make sure that you're ready to do that project. And I'd almost rather you get featured on other people's, because it's easier and quicker.
So, Jill, do you think that you do this for a certain period of time, let's say 6 months, a year, and now you've been on all sorts of radio programs and TV programs, and you've been written up about, and you've done all sorts of media. Do you stop? Do you take a deep breath and say, I'm done, I've got it, I've got that celebrity status? Or is it a always and always and always thing?
Here's the thing. My opinion, you continue to do your publicity. You don't always have to do I got to get in, major media all the time, but you keep you be like a terrier, not a bulldog, consistent with your media. And what do I mean by that? I mean that you're keeping your eyes open for opportunities, your PR antenna's up. You see who's doing podcasts and you say, hey, I'd love to be a guest. You show up and stay visible at networking meetings, and you do what I like to refer to as visibility building activities, VBAs, and they include things like getting on podcasts consistently. It includes things like getting on Google Alerts, putting your name, like one special word into Google Alerts and watch what comes up. In fact, I'll tell you a great story. I'm doing now a year of kindness, and that's super exciting, based on the book, The Profit of Kindness. We have a wonderful community. We're sharing leads and connections every single month. And it's just really a wonderful community that's coalescing beautifully. And here's the thing. That started because in Google Alerts, I put in the word kindness. I found out that November 13th is World Kindness Day. So guess what? Of course I'm going to do publicity around World Kindness Day. I put together a summit called the Kindness Summit. We had over 120 people in there. And then now, this year, 2021, we're doing a year of kindness so that every single month, once a month, we come together and share kindness. How fabulous is that, right?
Oh, really fabulous.
Yeah. So it's really fun. And with that, what I'm suggesting is that all started because of Google Alert.
Yeah, that's a terrific tip. Well, Jill, I am looking at the clock, and we are running out of time. I know you have amazing more tips, amazing more ideas. If somebody wanted to learn more, first of all, how can they get a hold of you? And do you have a special offer for the listeners?
Absolutely. So you can get a hold of me, support@JillLublin.com. Lots of L's in there, JILLLUBLIN as in Nancy. support@JillLublin.com. And then I definitely have a special offer, and that is I'm doing a virtual publicity course. This is like no nonsense, get her done, roll up our sleeves, and literally in one virtual day, we are creating 3 documents that you need for the press, and then templates you can use for any project that you're working on ongoingly. And I'm spilling all the secrets and sharing systems for getting your media done the right way. And what I've done is created a very special price. You've never even heard it this low, because during this pandemic, I want people to have access to the media and get your message out in a way that's simple and easy. So to get that special pandemic pricing, which is only $197 right now, you go to publicitycrashcourse.com and put in the code Stay Visible. It's all lowercase. Put in the code Stay Visible, and that will get you a super duper pandemic pricing for the virtual Publicity Crash Course.
Well, that's a bargain, because I know your ability. I mean, you work with people all over the world. In fact, you're well-traveled. We never even got into how you can help them with their books being recognized or shown at different book clubs. They're not book clubs. They're book shows.
I help people, and if you're interested in this, schedule an appointment. We'll talk about it. I do help people get foreign rights deals. So if you've got a self-published book, please let me know, and let's see how we can get you some foreign rights going on.
Well, Jill, thank you. I know it was. I know that everybody is going to get so much benefit out of this. I know I always do. I mean, just reminders of this kind of thing. It's fabulous. Thank you so much for being a guest today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Well, this is Nina Hirschberger, and saying, don't forget, your message needs to get out to that media. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to Megabucks Radio with Nina Hirschberger. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or to listen to past episodes, visit megabucksradio.com.